Welcome everyone to the Drowning Current. This is your host herrera, and tonight we will be discussing a familiar foe that I have been facing for the past decade that I've been wrestling, or nearly 12 years now. The fact of the matter is that that stable has been a thorn in my side since I was in a fed called UHW. Back when I started, it was called UWF. I was one of its longest cruiserweight champions and one of its longest platinum champions. When the Fed started, there was a stable called GWL. It dominated unlike any other. We held every damn title in the company until ego got in the way. Members within it, like Bishop and Rage, were fighting over who has control, over who's more important to the stable, who deserves to get what. And so it split up into multiple factions. GWL Dog Pound was formed, and that's where I went. Once GWL got destroyed by trying to fight against each other, the Society of Destruction was born. And that's when Brian Kennedy decided to make his debut, align with my former brother, Bishop, and form the Empire with a newly recruited member in Andrew Paine, a foe of mine I had in a fed called WIA. We feuded over multiple titles. We were he went to the main event while I was on my way there. We had epic feuds with each other in tag team and singles. And then that feud continued in UHW once he formed Death Sentence with Brian Kennedy. The Empire has been a thorn in my side ever since then. We have never seen eye to eye, even though they respect me. That brings me to what I want to discuss. Requiem thinks that just because he dominated a certain era means that I'm nothing to him. You might want to check the scoreboard, man, because even your own tag team partners will tell you how important I am to the Fed. Remember Frostbite, Brian Kennedy, Andrew Paine? All members of the Empire at one point or another? They were all rivals of mine. In fact, I own pinfall victories over each and every one of them. The only one I haven't faced is you. And that's because you left when I was about to enter the Fed. It's ironic, really. I've waited for years to face you because I've heard lots of things about you. That you're a UCW Hall of Famer, that you're a former champion, all this rah stuff about Requiem, about how he's so awesome. And I want to find out for myself this week if all of that is true. While you were away and left this Fed high and dry, me and my family came into this company and dominated. My wife, my cousin, my brothers, every one of my family came over here, won tag team titles, world title, television title, every damn title this company has to offer. We won each and every one of them. The only one that didn't win the world title was me. Even though I was in a lot of main events, I won Feud of the Year with Frostbite and Dave Brickheart. I also won Feud of the Year with Sickle, my own mentor. That's another point I'd like to cross. You say that you're deicide, that you know all about the darkness. I think I've covered this with Cash Allen, but I'll cover it with you again. I was taught by a man known as Sickle that He tried to convince me to embrace the darkness. He tried to make me convert. He tried to tell me that a lot of this isn't worth it. He tried to tell me the same shit as you. And I believed him at one point. I did. I converted after he burned down my school, after a lot of my family died. But like I told Cash Allen last card, that didn't come into fruition because of the fact that I still cared about a lot of things. My family made me snap out of it and realize that I have too much to care for. I have my school, I have my daughters, I have my son, I have a family that I look forward to looking at. I have a lot of things that I can't lose, and that made the darkness very hard for me to embrace. But as far as what you're trying to say about the darkness and us not even needing to be in the match, save your bravado. I've heard this before. I've heard this from my teacher. I've heard this from opponents, from a lot of people. And it all goes back to the same thing. I'm not scared. Alright? I'm not. I was born with epilepsy. My fucking doctors told me I wouldn't live to see my 20s. I was in and out of the hospital my first 4 years. I stared death in the face and lived. I got out of the pills in my 20s. I'm 8 years without a seizure, 5 years without pills. I kicked what was supposed to be a lifetime illness in the nuts and killed it. I spent my life in special ed classes because they couldn't find what was wrong with me. Lots of them told me I would amount to nothing, that I would be a failure, but look at me now. I've got like what, 8 Hall of Fames right now? That my 8th is happening this next month with Hall of Hendrickson. Not bad for a guy that was supposed to be a failure. It just goes to show you, no matter how much shit you talk to me, I always come back for more. Whether it's Brian Kennedy, Andrew Paine, Frostbite, even my own brothers, Trent James and Cash Allen, know it firsthand. Because when I first came to UCW, they were with Hendrickson as the Brotherhood with Nicky Monroe. Yeah, Nicky Monroe was one of my wife's students. She came to my wife for assistance, and they formed they formed they formed a stable of their own, and they had pretty much a lot of success. Even my wife helped her win the women's championship. Yeah, and we had that rivalry with them over control of the company, just like right now. Funny enough. And what happened? Society of Destruction whooped their ass. We won the rivalry. And then what happened was Hendrickson calmed down and learned to respect us. He did the same thing as you. He talked down to us. He told us we're nothing, that power is what matters, that he's got all the money and he could fire me whenever he wants. Trust me, he fired my cousin 3 times, and my cousin still came back and won the world title under a mask. Hendrickson knows firsthand that Society of Destruction are a tough animal to deal with, and you will learn that firsthand. All of this ties in together because it just goes to show you. We've had a large imprint on this business. While you were away, the Society of Destruction took over the Fed. We won every single title. Hell, when the Fed first started, my wife was the world champion, and my cousin was the Duke of Wrestling champion, I think they call it now. I've lost track of their name changes. Yeah, and they got stripped of the title unfairly. And then Brian Kennedy and Frostbite won the titles off of vacated titles. Which, by the way, they have rematch clauses, and they will be installing them as soon as possible. So be sure to warm up those titles for us. All right? It all it all goes hand in hand. We've dominated this Fed while you've been away, Requiem. You don't know what you're dealing with. You seem to underestimate us. You seem to focus on Trent James and everything that he's been talking about. But do you realize what you're dealing with? Do you realize just how big of a monster society destruction really is? I don't think you do, because you seem to be discarding it as just another match, as an inferior to you. I don't think you realize just how even we really are, because everybody knows how hard I am to defeat. I've had awards here, I've had titles here, some would say I've had a Hall of Fame career everywhere I went. There's not been a Fed where I didn't win a championship. I've won a championship in 80% of my Feds that I've attended. The only way I didn't is because I got fired prematurely. And this is no exception. 450, I'm going to win my first title here. I won it. I'm going to win my first title in this version of the Fed. And if it has to come through you, it will. I do care about Trent James and him having control of the company, because Trent James actually cares about this business, about the company. Fuck talking about gods among men. It's not just about that. Even before Gods Among Men, I respected Trent James because we were in like 7 Feds together. I saw how the man battled for titles week in and week out. I saw what he stands for. Some would say Trent James is like my identical twin brother. We just haven't crossed paths yet until the return show when I faced him and got the win. Up until then, we hadn't crossed paths. So when he asked me to be part of Gods Among Men, it was easy to say yes, because of the fact that we are so close to each other when it comes to what we believe in. I'm still trying to figure out what Cash Allen's objectives are, but I know Justin Justice very well. In fact, I was one of the people that helped train Justin Justice. He got inducted into the HCW Hall of Fame, or the Fed that I run. That guy is a very talented wrestler as well. Trust me, Frostbite is learning that firsthand. Gods Among Men is about unity. It's about trust. Cash Allen is going to learn that later on. Gods Among Men will live on forever. Just like when UHW happened, when I beat the Empire and did the unthinkable, it could happen again. I'm ready to shock the world one more time. So Requiem, I implore you, tell me I'm nothing. Tell me I won't amount to anything, because trust me, I've heard that ever since I was a little kid. And trust me, every one of your tag team partners can vouch for me that I'm not insignificant, that I am a legend, and I will make you pay for underestimating me. Andrew Paine already knows about me, and he's going to learn firsthand that while he's been away, I've become even better. I've held the world title for 353 days in that time while he's been away. I got another Hall of Fame induction and longest reigning champion. I've stayed fresh while you guys have been away. So tell me, if I'm so insignificant, why did you choose to return against us? That's right, because you view us as a threat. Because you think that if you eliminate us, you will get what's coming to you. Trust me, it won't be that easy. Brian Kennedy's gonna learn it, and so are you, and so is Andrew Paine. Believe the hype. I don't need no introduction.